Hello friends, I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you doing today? How is life in your world? How's things where you are? I am wonderful. Everything is great here. And I hope that it is wherever you are. We got to play our first session of Dungeons & Dragons tonight. This is the first time I've played in about 15 years, since my daughter was born. And so we got to play tonight, and I played with my two daughters. They are 15 and 11, so I had no clue that they were even interested in this until a couple weeks ago when I mentioned that I wanted to play the, I just got Baldur's Gate for my Nintendo Switch, and I wanted to play the D&D game, and they were both like, oh, I want to learn D&D, and my oldest was like, yeah, I want to learn D&D, but I'm really confused by it, and I said, well, we can play, and they were like, really? I said, yeah, I used to play all the time. So I had given away all my books. I went and bought the starter set. I asked on Twitter, like, what should I start with? And somebody suggested the starter set. They said the adventure was really good, and it would get us up and going inexpensively. I think it was less than $13 on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description if you want to pick up the starter set. And it's very concise. It plays very well. I think to give a quick thing that I didn't like about the starter set is it doesn't really explain. You get this character sheet with all this information on it, but the starter set doesn't really explain it very well. I wish that there was a little bit more of an in-depth, like, these are the areas of your character sheet and this is what they do. Other than that, it played great. And my kids played great. So the best part about this was I didn't have to do a whole lot of fudging. You know, I didn't have to. They rolled amazing numbers and I rolled bad numbers, you know, and so the adventure that comes in the starter set, this is the Lost Mine of Phandelver, is it's for 4 to 5 level 1 characters. Well, I only have 2 daughters. I can't make more real quick. So I knew that I was going to give them an NPC. And that can be a little rough on a GM because the NPC runs the chance of being this like god character who kind of takes over the campaign. But I told them both for tonight's session I was going to play as him, but in the future they're going to have to take over and let me know what he's doing. But just to make things a little bit more survivable, I gave them an NPC because my oldest picked the wizard and my youngest picked the thief. So a wizard and a thief, not great for adventuring in the world of Dungeons & Dragons. If you know anything about it, those are probably the two squishiest characters. Very easy for them to just get mauled to death, you know, with one die roll. So what ended up happening was, if you go back and watch yesterday's video, I put together spell cards for my oldest, so she knows these are your spells that you have learned. You have 2 slots available. You can discard these when you spend your spells. I made a couple of player handouts, and I got my battle mat ready, and then I didn't have any minis anymore, so I made little wooden tokens with printout pictures of the goblins and my player characters. And we put together a quick little session, and what I decided tonight was the Lost Mine of Phandelver starts with you already on the way to Phandelver. Essentially, Gundren, this dwarf, has hired you to transport his wagon to Phandelver. And I started off this whole session, tonight was kind of our session 0. It was our character discussion session. We spent the first literally like hour and a half or maybe even 2 hours just talking about going through the character sheet step by step. And I knew that this was probably the easiest way to introduce them. These are what your stats do. This is your strength is your strength. Your intelligence is how smart you are, that sort of stuff. Then I walked them through their armor class, how that works. I walked them through hit points, hit dice, which is a new thing to me. I'd never seen that before. It lets you recover some hit points. I walked them through their skills, their proficiencies and how all of that ties together, their equipment, and then we talked about their character traits. We just stepped through it. This is everything that you can do, and the sheet will inform you. And I made sure to point things out, like my youngest has the sneak attack, and I pointed out to her that sneak attack works if the person that you're attacking is being attacked by another person. So, like, you can. I told her, you're squishy. You don't want to get in hand-to-hand combat with somebody, but if our fighter is up there fighting something, you can go run up and sneak attack the guy that he's fighting and get extra damage. And she was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I want to do that. So to introduce the actual way the game works, instead of just diving into you're traveling south and you get ambushed by some goblins, which is how this opens up. You get ambushed by 4 goblins. Unless the characters specify that they're looking out for traps or they're looking out for ambushes or they're, whatever, that 4 goblins that attack, that ambush you, can be very, very deadly for 3 level 1 characters. So I didn't want to dive into the very first adventure and they both get knocked out step 1. Like, that would not be fun for them. So instead I crafted a little story in tavern before this adventure starts where they actually meet with whatever his name is, Gundar or Gundren. I crafted a little story. Keeley had picked the thief, and the thief in this adventure was a former member of the Red Brands, which becomes an enemy later in the scenario. And she got basically thrown out, and then the leader of the Red Brands tried to have her killed. And so I used that as a hook. Gundren is telling them we need to go to Phandelver. We've discovered something big there. I have this business partner. We need to ship a wagon load of stuff. I want you guys to take it. You're my 3 best goons. I've hired you multiple times. You've always done good for me, so I'd like for you 3 to accompany this wagon, and I'll pay you money. And so that was how I started it. And then I had an assassin attempt to kill Keeley's character, Keeley's thief. And right off the bat, so I had this assassin sneak into the room, throw a knife. I had Keeley roll a saving throw. She makes it. The knife hits the wall behind her. Everybody jumps up like, what the hell is going on? And then this assassin runs in and tries to stab her, and he missed. And I didn't have to fudge any of that. That just happened. And I was like, well, this is fun. And so, right off the bat, I'm like, what are you going to do? Let's roll for initiative. So they roll for their initiatives, and I think Roland's character got to go first. And she's like, I just sit here. She's playing this high elf mage who's like kind of just on a quest for knowledge, and she's just like, whatever, like, do what you're doing, I don't care. So she just sits there for the first round of combat. Keeley's character, the little halfling thief, just jumps up on the back, gets on the back of this guy and tries to stab him after yelling at him for a little bit, and she succeeds and successfully stabs the shit out of this guy, almost kills him. Gundren, or not Gundren, I don't remember what I named him, the human fighter jumps up and tries to attack the dude and completely misses the guy. And the Gundren, the guy they're meeting with, the merchant they're meeting with, just kind of hides in a corner, like cowers in a corner. So the next round, Roland's character goes and consoles that guy. She's not even dealing with this assassin, which was interesting. They both played their characters very well. She plays this kind of lofty elf, like, I'm whatever. You're just bothering me. I don't like this. Whereas Keeley's this little ruffian thief. So Keeley's still on the guy's back. He actually punches her in the face, and she takes a couple of points of damage. And then she tries to stab and misses, and then the human fighter kills the guy. So right off the bat, I introduced them to the idea of sneak attacks. I introduced them to being ambushed. I introduced them to the combat system, how initiative works, how rounds work. Keeley, the second round, she didn't try to stab him. She pickpocketed him. I'm like, whatever. She's like, I'm going to pick his pockets. And I had made a player handout of the map. And in the book, the map has a whole bunch of extra information that the players should not be able to see. So I hand drew a simple map, and I put a nice little red X on an important area because I wanted to give them a lead, right? And that important area is step 2 after the goblin ambush. So after that night, they rest. Keeley heals herself from her wounds, and then they head out the next day. And they survived the goblin encounter. And I did a little bit of fudging there. I had to. I initially, because there was only 3 characters, I had reduced the goblin count to 3. I decided there was only going to be 3 goblins. 2 would come running out of the woods. 1 would stay in the woods and shoot. And the first goblin out of the woods runs up and stabs Roland's character, but only hits for 3 damage or something. It wasn't a whole lot. The second goblin runs out and stabs the human guy for quite a bit, actually. He got hurt really bad. And then the third goblin tries to shoot him and hits the horse. Just completely missed. He was standing behind a horse. And a dead horse, but I figured it provided cover, right? Some cover. So he misses. And they successfully, Roland used burning hands to kill the guy, just murdered the guy that was in front of her. The human guy killed the first goblin, So immediately 2 goblins are dead. Keely's character comes running around to get between them. Or maybe Keely killed him. Keely killed him. She comes running around and kills the goblin that was fighting the human fighter, and the human fighter runs off to try to get the guy in the woods, but he couldn't get to him. He was too far away. So I decided, well, the 4th goblin's going to come out. So they come out. Roland uses magic missile and kills him, and the other one takes off running, which is kind of what the scenario indicated, and the human fighter went after him. And so they survived, and they ended up killing that goblin and deciding to kind of rest for the night because they were all pretty wounded. And Roland wanted to reset her spells, and we ended there. And it was a great time. We had a really, really good time with it. I felt a little bit out of control. Like, when you're a DM with a table full of eager adults who have played Dungeons & Dragons before, it's very easy to kind of coach them and move through the adventure without having to kind of push them. They push themselves, right? Whereas with 2 young players who have never played the game, have never seen the game played, have no concept of what's going on, I had to constantly kind of push. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to do anything? Are you just say anything to this guy? If you're talking out of character, please tell me. If you're talking in character, please tell me. You know, I had to do all of the little... I had to teach them. Like, this is how we play this game. And I felt I was super rusty for one. I haven't DM'd in 15 years, or maybe even longer than that. I think the last game I played, I was a player in. So I haven't DM'd in a very long time. And I had to coach, I had to push, I had to kind of mold it. And it worked out well. The next part, they've made it to the next part of the adventure. I think it's going to be a little bit more involved and more fun. But I had a blast, and I think they did too. And I can't wait to finish this one up so that we can see if they like it. I hope they do. I really hope they like it, because if they do, we're going to buy the books, and we're going to make our own characters, and I'm going to come up with our own campaign and work out our own adventures and see what happens. So... it was a blast. It really was. I hope that was at least remotely interesting to you. If you have any questions about running The Lost Mine of Phandelver, at least the first scenario with children, please let me know in the comments. If you have any other comments about how I could or could not play the game better, or help my children play the game better, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I will see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is bovine, and is an adjective meaning anything related to or reminiscent of cows or other dull, docile, slow-moving, grazing animals. The cow is of the bovine ilk. One end is moo, the other end milk. Ogden Nash, an American poet. Bovine, B-O-V-I-N-E.